In an effort to provide residents with an easy, secure, and safe way to dispose of unwanted or expired prescription drugs, the City of Elmhurst has a collection box in the Police Department lobby. This safe and easy drop-off location allows residents to be eco-friendly and keep medications out of the water supply, in addition to keeping them out of the hands of our youth or individuals who might otherwise abuse prescription drugs. Prescription painkillers, or opioid pain relievers, are to blame for nearly 3/4 of tragedies caused by drug overdose. Residents are encouraged to look through medicine cabinets and bring these expired or unwanted medications to the Elmhurst Police Department. In an effort to make it even easier for residents to dispose safely of their unwanted or expired medications, the Police Department hosts annual prescription drug take-back days, where a portable prescription drug collection box is available at various community events. For more information, visit www.elmhurst.org.
Prepare to post colors. Post. Recover.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated.
At every opening of the regimental dining in or dining out, every member of the regiment would normally take the first drink out of the punch bowl. There are only two people that know what is in that punch bowl. The master of ceremonies and the person who made it. Now, we want to spare you all of whatever is in there, so Commander Scudder and your lonely sergeant at arms will make sure you don't have to suffer the consequence of what's in that concoction. So our first toast is going to be to our regiment and to all of you. And I hope I can remain standing.
He won't.
Whoa, whoa. We don't know what's in here. Now, you might find that my regimental rug, or rug? Don't worry, buddy. Mug is a little dented and warped. That's because it's traveled probably on 3 continents and across country 4 times. So it's got as much mile on it as I have on me. So, to the regiment, to our guests, the American Legion. Man, boy.
Hey, Bill, how was it?
Good stuff. And I was really not that bad.
Well, thank you, sir. May I have a note? Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, again, welcome to everyone. Thank you for attending the 3rd annual military ball here at the Elmhurst American Legion. I am not Ken Bartels, just in case there was any question about that. We've been confused for each other before. I love the guy, but I'm not Ken. Ken was the MC the first 2 years and wasn't able to be here with us this evening. But my name is Wes Becton. I did spend a little bit of time in the military. As a matter of fact, I was born at Walter Reed Army Medical Center. I went to Valley Forge Military College. I got a degree from George Washington University. Are you detecting a little bit of a theme here? So I love this country. I love the military, and I'm just so honored to be able to be here with you all tonight and act as your MC. And if I have too much of that punch, it'll get really wild. So hopefully that won't.
Yes, it will.
Yes, it will. Thank you,
Franklin
sir.
just left, by the way.
Well, you know what? A military ball is an occasion where there's a lot of tradition, which some of which you've already seen, a lot of pomp, and a lot of circumstance. But we're going to have a little bit of fun tonight too. But we're also gonna be serious for just a moment. What I'd like to do is I've asked two people to come up to the front. If I could get Scott Levin and Marianne Mapes, come on up to the front, because you saw a couple things already. Okay, go ahead and face the audience, please. So what you saw when the colors were posted, you saw people standing at attention, you saw other people saluting. So what we're going to do is take two people who I don't believe have ever served in the military, and we're going to teach them how to stand at attention now to salute. So Scott, I want you to put your feet together. I want you to put your feet at a 45-degree angle, heels together. Knees slightly bent, not locked, hips level, chest up, shoulders back and down, palms curled, thumbs along the seam of your trousers, arms in. You're doing great. Chin in. Head nod straight to the front. Freeze. Don't move. Got it? All right. Mapes, Mary and I work together, so this is, I have her doing this when she annoys me. But put your, go the same thing, take your hand, make a karate hand, don't put this one down, make a karate hand, come up and put it just like that. Cant it downward, just like that, elbow in. Hey, they're doing pretty good, aren't they? They're doing pretty good. Don't move, don't move. Because I really wanted to use this as an opportunity, don't move, to thank our sponsors. There's 150 of it. I'm gonna go through each of their names right now. Actually, I was going to have them do the front leaning rest position, but we'll save that for a little later. It's a lot like planking and yoga. So there are, we have 4-star sponsors, we have 3-star sponsors, we have 2-star sponsors, and we have 1-star sponsors. I'd refer to your program here, but I do want to make a special shout out for our 4-star sponsors, Scott and Charity Algren. We want to thank you very much for helping us make this event possible. You doing okay? You doing all right? Good. All right. You got one more. So I'd also like to thank our 3-star sponsors, the Community Bank of Elmhurst, Edward Elmhurst Health, Custom Bindery, John and Ann Buckley, and Southwater Signs. Please give them a round of applause. Okay. You're done. Good job. Thank you so much. Give our demonstrators a round of applause. You know, we're actually going to move on to one of the more serious traditions, one of the more serious traditions, and it's called our Fallen Comrade Ceremony. I want to draw your attention to the table that some of you all may have noticed when you walk in. When you walked in. Right now, in places all around the world, some of them you probably can't pronounce or wouldn't be able to locate on a map, there's young men and young women that are away from home, sacrificing their lives, putting their lives on the line so that we can enjoy the freedoms that we all enjoy today. And many of those same people have, people that have served did not come home, or they're missing. And if you ask what's the ultimate sacrifice an American can make, it's to give their life for their country. So as you look at the table that's there, There's several emblems on it that all have a lot of symbolism and tradition to them. The first I want to draw your attention to is the table itself. It's set for one because it symbolizes the frailty of one person, one prisoner, alone against his or her oppressors. The tablecloth itself is white. It's symbolic of the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. You'll notice a single red rose in a vase. This signifies the blood that many have shed in sacrifice to ensure the freedom of our beloved United States of America. The rose also reminds us of the family and friends of our missing comrades who keep the faith while we await and they await for their return. The yellow ribbon around the vase represents the yellow ribbons worn on the lapels of thousands who demand with unyielding determination a proper accounting for our comrades, our fellow citizens who are not among us tonight. A slice of lemon on the plate reminds us of their bitter fate. On the small table to the right is salt sprinkled on the plate, and it reminds us of the countless fallen tears of families as they wait for their loved ones. The glass is inverted, it's turned upside down. They cannot toast because they cannot have a toast with us tonight. The chair itself is empty because they are not here. And finally, the candle is reminiscent of the light of hope which lives in our hearts to illuminate their way home, away from their captors, into the open arms of a grateful nation. Thank you. At this point, we're going to have a toast, and this toast is to our missing comrades. So the tradition is that you never want to toast with an empty glass, so if you don't have a beverage in front of you, go ahead and take a minute and pour something into that glass. And when everybody has a glass, what we ask at this point is that you charge your glass. You hold out the glass, and we're going to give a toast to our missing comrades. And the response is, to our missing comrades. Thank you very much. At this point, I'd like to introduce Brigadier General John Wendell for the invocation.
Before I pray, what I would like to do is that we pay another honor. A very sad thing happened in our nation this morning. 11 people who had gathered for worship had their lives snuffed out by a person whose prejudice felt he could not allow them to live. And so I'm going to ask that we have just bow our hearts, our heads for a few moments before I pray, in memory of those 11 who died during their act of worship. Our dear Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening with thankful hearts for the blessings that you have poured out on our nation since its founding. It is our sincere prayer that we as a nation will always maintain strength of courage and an enduring commitment to peace for not only our nation, but for those people of other lands as well. We thank you for a military whose strength is used for peace and security, and as a guardian that protects those values we hold dear as a nation. We pray for your protection of the brave men and women of our military forces who, at this moment, are deployed worldwide. This I pray in the name of Christ my Lord. Amen.
Chairman Wendell, thank you very much. So here we are, and it's time to eat. Bon appetit, and we'll have some more words. Oh, wait a minute. We can't eat yet.
I hate to interrupt you.
Yes, sir.
But
Excuse me, First Sergeant.
a four-star general has been in the area, and he's asked to attend our party. Seeing as how he outranks everybody in this room, of course, I said yes. So I'd like to introduce him, if I might.
Absolutely, First Sergeant.
No problem at all, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce General Ulysses S. Grant, Commander of Union Forces of the United States.
Well, good evening. Oh, my goodness. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be with you here this evening. Now, as most of you probably know, Mrs. Grant and I do keep a home here in Illinois. It's way, way west of here in Galena. Some of you probably visited the home. But we don't spend much time there. Not because we don't like the place, but our duties, of course, take us elsewhere. Now, we moved there in April of 1860. We were living in a rented house there at the time. I joined my two brothers, Orville and Simpson, in the leather goods store that my father owned there in downtown Galena. I had resigned from the military about 6 years earlier in '54. After 15 years of service, I wanted to spend some time with my family, who I hadn't seen for 2 years. It consisted of my wife and 4 children, 3 sons and a daughter. We probably could have lived there peacefully in Galena for some time, but national events, as it was usual in my life, changed things. President Lincoln was elected in November of that year. The southern states did what they promised to do. They seceded. Fort Sumter was attacked in April of '61. We were now at war. Again, this time against ourselves. Because of my military experience, I felt it was my duty to offer my services to my country. I did, and then I also offered my services to the state of Illinois, to Governor Yates. Governor Yates eventually appointed me as colonel of the 21st Illinois Volunteer Infantry. That was my first command during the war. Now, those 21st boys, they were kind of a bunch of rowdy farm boys from Mattoon. When I called them out to formation the first day, one of them came up and knocked my hat off. Well, I thought that was quite rude. So I sent them back to their barracks with no breakfast, with no noon meal, and with no supper. And that night I doubled the guard at the gate so they couldn't go to town as they were used to doing. Well, the next morning when I called them out to formation, their attitude had changed significantly. They were quite hungry, and they knew they wouldn't have a thing to eat until they obeyed my every command. Now, they had enlisted for 30 days to the state of Illinois, and the plan was that they would now re-enlist for 90 days for federal service and be mustered into a federal unit. I had no idea at that point whether any of them would re-enlist or not. Well, two gentlemen came to visit me, Congressman Logan and Congressman McLaren, and they wanted to speak to the men. Well, I'd known McLaren. He represented the area around Springfield. I know him to be a patriotic man, and I felt sure that he could help the cause here, getting these men to re-enlist. Now, Logan, on the other hand, I didn't know much about. He represented the southern district in our state. Most of the people that had settled there were from Kentucky and Tennessee. They were pro-slavery, they were pro-Confederacy, and many of the young men had gone to fight for the southern cause. But I allowed Logan to speak, and much to my pleasure, he gave one of the most patriotic, enthusiastic speeches that I've ever heard, supporting the Union. And those men re-enlisted to the man. They became very good soldiers and fought with me at Belmont, Fort Donelson, and other early battles of the war. Now, if it's the Minutemen from Lexington and Concord, the Kentuckians and the Tennesseans that fought with Colonel Jackson down at New Orleans during the War of 1812, or the Texans that fought with me in Mexico in 1847-48. These volunteers were the backbone of our Army, and I believe they are yet today. The professional soldier certainly has his duty to do, but it's these volunteers that make our Army. Now, in '63, I had some success at Vicksburg and also at Chattanooga. Well, this caught the attention of the president, and he called me to Washington City in March of '64. Now, I'd read in the paper, you men that are in the military or have been recently, sometimes you read in the paper before you hear it from anybody else what is going on. Well, of course, you always wonder if it's true or not, but in this case, they had reinstated the position of Lieutenant General. Now, George Washington was, of course, our first Lieutenant General, and there hadn't been one since. And I understood that I would be promoted to that rank. So I went to Washington City, met with the president. I'd been warned, you don't want to divulge too much information to the president, because he doesn't keep secrets. Well, he took me aside at one point, and I could tell he wanted to know what my plan was. Well, I told the president, I said, up until this time, we've been fighting these sporadic battles. There'd be months sometimes in between one horrible battle after another. But this allowed the Confederacy to use their interior lines to reinforce all their different theaters of operations. Longstreet's First Corps had fought at Gettysburg, they fought at Chickamauga, and they had fought at Nashville. It was time for this to end. I would order all my generals to find their enemy that was in front of them, grab a hold of that enemy, and do not let go until he is defeated. and we would continually fight until the war ended. This terrible war had to end. The president looked at me and he says, I understand, General. He says, one person holds the varmint while the other one skins him. I said, well, Mr. President, I guess that's one way to put it. I put General Sherman in command of the Army of the West, which was my former command, and I decided to make my headquarters and field as General-in-Chief with General Meade in the Army of the Potomac. Our opposition army was, of course, General Lee in the Army of Northern Virginia. After another year of heavy fighting and a siege at Petersburg that lasted for 9 months, General Lee's army had dwindled from 80,000 soldiers down to about 40,000, mostly by desertion. His men were starving, and they had lost their will to fight. When we entered some of the trenches there at Petersburg, we found 12-year-old boys next to men who were in their 60s. Lee abandoned his works in April of '65. He went up the Appomattox River. He wanted to join up with General Joe Johnston's army in North Carolina and fight for another year. I intended to prevent him from doing that.
So General Grant, I
Yes.
tell you what, we're going to hear the rest of this in just a minute because we want to hear how this ends.
Okay.
So
It's
we're
getting
going to,
close.
yeah, we're going to serve the dinner here in just a minute.
Okay.
And you're going to be around for pictures, right?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, great. Let's give General Grant a loud applause. That was awesome. Thank you. You can share the rest of you. John Scudder. The Elmhurst American Legion, as you know, has been part of the Elmhurst community for generations of veterans in active duty, military alike. They call this their home. So John's got a few remarks, and then he's going to lead us in a toast.
Thank you, Les. Good evening, everybody. We appreciate you showing up tonight and supporting the Elmhurst American Legion. We will be 100 years old next year. We made it 100 years. This year, we're going to have ceremonies with the 100th anniversary of the ending of World War I. So it's been 100 years ago before some Elmhurst residents as young men gave their lives on the field of France and in Belgium. So always remember those young men. In our service organization, we try to remember the vets. We leave nobody behind at any time. If anybody comes here and needs something that we can provide, we give it to them as fast as we possibly can. A real quick example is that there's a veteran who has lost his leg. He's been in a hospital for 1 year. He can't go home until his home is wheelchair accessible. We were notified about this and we immediately got to work with Home Depot and their veterans program. Contractor went in, looked at it, gave a bid of $21,000. We are now getting okay out of Atlanta, and when that happens, this gentleman will be able to go home to a completely remodeled home, wheelchair accessible in every way whatsoever, and return to his home and lead a normal life as much as he possibly can. So this is some of the things that we do. Another thing that I can mention real quick, and I'll let you all go back to eating, is that we have a gentleman that called here. He was spending close to between $800 and $1,100 a month in his medicine. Couldn't afford it anymore. We got him into the VA, got his cost way, way down to a manageable thing of about $100 a month. So he has his extra income, he can stay in his house, and the VA came through for him on something like that. So again, this is what we do. We're just not a bar or a banquet hall, although that does support us. It allows us to continue our service. One thing I'll ask you always to remember is that our freedom is not free. from 1775 till today, somebody paid the ultimate price and their family paid the ultimate price. And I always like to say, it's predicated on a few words. These people will live the rest of their life and never hear the sound of, "Hi, Mom, I'm home." Just remember that. So on that note, let me make a toast, if I might. I toast the United States of America. And now, Norm Leader will lead us in another toast.
To the armed forces, active duty of the United States.
Here, here, here. The active duty of the United States.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce our honored guest tonight, Brigadier General Matthew Baker, Deputy Commanding
416 Theater Engineer Command. Gentlemen.
I want to thank you for having me, and I don't know how I come up against, the motivational songs about services, so that's really nice to come up against that. That's a great segue. But tonight's theme is about service, right? And what service means to everyone out there, and what. So before I really talk about service, and what it means to me, I just want to get back to reflect on some of the things that service meant to you. I was thinking about that, and I'll tell you what it means to me, but I just got back from Israel yesterday, right? And to put things into perspective, that everybody in Israel serves in the military, right? From one extent to the other. Less than 1% in the American population serves. So really different dynamics in how that goes. And if you put things in even more perspective, less than 25% of the American population is qualified to serve in the military. So we can only pull from 25%, with different things, and disqualify people to serve in the military. So it's really nice to be surrounded by everybody here who has served in the military, served in some capacity, or is a supporting family member of a service member, right? The American Legion is all about supporting service. And it doesn't matter what service you're in, and where you go from there. But, so, and I deal with congressional delegates and things like that. We have to speak, we talk, and kind of go around. And one of the foundations was, and it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat. This happened to be a Democrat. We're kind of in the minority right now with people in the room and how we want a great nation. We don't care if people are Democrats or Republicans. We just want a great nation, right? And we are a great nation. We need to sustain that. So it was just kind of a eye opener from that, and then coming from Israel, to hear. It's just a really different thing. So back to what does service mean to me? You know what? And everybody can ask themselves these questions. What does it mean to me? It gives me a sense of really sense of pride of being something bigger than I am, right? And playing a small role in keeping our nation great. So really, the key is, I'm just a guy, right? And think about it, for everyone who's raised their right hand to defend the Constitution against, all foreigners, or all enemies, foreign and domestic, right? We all raised our hands here and did that. And I remember when I did it, I was 17 years old. My dad said, "Hey, this would be a really good idea for you to do this." It'd be a really good idea for you to do this. So I went, I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this. But think about when you did that. Right? When you stood there, and whether you were forced to or not forced to, or you were part of the draft, it doesn't matter, right? We all took that. We all took that oath, and we said, you know what, this is part of me. And what did that do? That set us on a journey, right? And I'm a firm believer life is a journey. You know what? You never get to that destination because you'll hit milestones along the way, marriages, kids, and graduating college. But life is a journey. So. You look at it and you say, all right, so where did this start me out? I was in upstate New York, and I raised my right hand and I did this thing. And then I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, school of boys, but I was corrected the other day when I said that in front of a bunch of soldiers and someone was female. Well, I think females can go there. So, the evolution of the Army, but, at that time it was a school of boys, and I had the opportunity to just take that on. And go there. And so that was the start of my journey. So, I often get asked to speak at different things, and I spoke at this one event. It was for a lot of sailors it was during Thanksgiving, and they actually gave them a break, and they bussed them in, and they got to have a Thanksgiving meal at the VFW in Villa Park, and I'm a member there, so I said, all right, I'll speak to them. And so, you talk to these new sailors, they're like young, and this is great. And I go, so I really want to know why why they joined, right? I know why I joined, you know why you joined, right? We all have our different reasons. So I asked them, why? You know, that's just one female. I go, why did you join? And what does it mean to you? She goes, you know what? I'd like to respect her. I go, all right. I go, so when you signed on that line, and like all of us did, our lives changed for a different thing. You know what? We did get a little bit more respect, right? Because we are service, right? We are giving ourselves to the service of our nation in a holistic view. And I go, okay, what does that respect mean? These people, treated you different after I started. I go, are you a different person? No, I'm not a different person, but all of a sudden I got respect. And I'm like, well, that's good. And I go, but as you go through your career, that respect that you got was granted to you because you signed that line. So you have to continue to give respect back and respect those positions that you're in. She's like, what do you mean? I go, all right, people thank me and they thank you for your service when you go through, they find out you're in the military. I like traveling low profile. I wear a sweatshirt. I look like a bum when I travel because I don't want people to know I've been in the military, but it kind of catches on if you're a military guy. So, but I try to do a low profile because, you know what? I don't need to be thanked for my service. I do it. It's a job. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy the impact that I can have on soldiers and training. And as a general officer, my voice gets a little bit louder, and I can throw a little bit more on the table. But things can happen, and my vision gets executed. And it just a little caveat to that is, I said, all right, I want everyone in the headquarters to get licensed. And they're like, all right, General Baker said everybody in the headquarters is going to get licensed. Well, we're going to take 5 days, and we're going to bring everybody here for 5 days. I'm like, hey, the chief of staff comes up to me and goes, sir, what do you do? I said, I'm out. I go, I want everybody to get licensed, but that's not our #1 priority, right? That's good. I want the 06 license. I want, 05. I want everybody licensed. But so people take it to where, once you say something, they will execute. It's crazy. But so anyway, to get back to this email, and so we have to give back thanks to everybody else. Right? The American Legion. I hear what you guys are doing. I mean, you're helping somebody out with the house. You're helping. People are giving back to the armed forces and the military people who serve, and it is such a great thing, and for what the American Legion is doing for things like that. And me, I'm a very humble person. I don't want anybody buying me lunch, and I don't want anybody buying me anything because you know what, I can pay for it. So getting back to the sailor is that we as service members have to carry on that respect and that dignity of being part of wearing the uniform or had worn the uniform, right? So, my advice to her, and it was just so, I don't know, it was like a sheep in the headlights when I'm talking to her, but it was such a good thing to see, there are really good, true people that are out there that are signing up, and they're our future. And our future really, really, really looks great. Right now with what's going on in our society, everybody hates each other, and I got it. But at that 18-year-old level, things are looking pretty good. So anyway, I want to get back to one of the Army values is selfless service, right? And so think about what selfless service is. One of my hardest days, I was a battalion commander, and one of my units went overseas, and they were a route clearance unit, so they were out there clearing stuff, and I get a call, I think it was on the 4th of July, I think it was a hard night the night before, but I get a call and says, Sergeant Billmeyer got hit on the Ramstein, he's going to be, he's lost both legs, and he's going to be getting to the States, get BAMC on this date, and I said, you know what, I'm there. I'm going to be there and welcome him back. And his family's calling me and saying, hey, sir, we're not getting updated. We're not getting updated. So I call the assistance people. I said, you got to update the people. They go, well, sir, we can't tell you what's going on. I go, I don't care what you do. I mean, I'm getting the information I need to get so I can meet them. I go, you need to understand what this family's going through. They get a call that says, your husband got injured. Great. Okay. I mean, if I was a family member, what would I do, right? I'd be like, what's going on. And so they started updating the family more, but one of my things is, the selfless service. So this person gave their life, signed the dotted line to do that. But it wasn't just them, right? The selfless service goes along to the family members as well. I mean, when your husband, wife, or child goes off to war or signs up, that's selfless service, right? You are giving a part of yourself to the nation, even though you're not the one in the uniform. So the selfless service extends to that. And one, to fast forward, I met him. I wanted to be there when he got there, when he arrived, and I was. I beat the family there because it's easy for the military to arrange your travel for things like that. And you look at the soldier, and this is a soldier who 3 months ago I took on a run. I took his unit on a run, right? They're hardcore route clearance guys, so we went on a run. And knowing that he may or may not be able to run ever again, really hit me hard. And so he woke up and he looked at me and goes, hey sir, thanks for being here. I'm like, where else would I be, right? And I watched his progression at the Intrepid Center, which is just awesome. What they do with putting, getting people to walk, getting their legs and things like that going. And he ended up doing a triathlon, eventually. Because you know what, but his family, the selfless service that his family, they just accepted it. It was like, hey, this is part of my journey, right? Where am I going in my journey? This is just a change of direction, right? And so it was just great watching him go on his journey and do great things. He got out of the military. He's still doing great things, and life is good for him, right? And he didn't want anybody to ever feel sorry for him. He goes, you know what? I did my thing. That's what I was signed up to do. And there was nothing like, you know what? Because you could have so many feelings, right? You could have anger. Why me? This is, this shouldn't have happened. This and that. It was like, I'm driving on, and we were able to honor him at a few events. But so again, that journey, and so you're walking along this journey, and you have to look at where would you be now if you didn't join the military or part of the military or had family members in the military. I'll tell you what, nobody would be in this room right now because everyone has an affiliation with the military and things like that. Les wouldn't be up here and doing what he's doing because it's just it, and it's that journey that we're going along, and sometimes we don't take a step back to say, you know what, this is the journey. This might be a hard time in my life. This might be a really big decision I have to make, but it's not the last decision you're going to make. It's not going to be the last bad time. There's going to be a lot of good times ahead of you. So we always have to put that in perspective, and I really put it in perspective along my journey of my career. And I tell people that. I enlisted as 11B, infantry guy, and my journey just kind of went different directions. They said, hey, you should go to OCS. So guess what I did? I went to OCS, right? I went to branch engineers. I did my tours. So we're along that line, and you have to look along your careers and your military service of where you are in life because of your journey. And I will tell you that I am a better person. I'm probably a better dad. I don't know about a better husband. That's my wife, dad. But for being in the military, being something that's bigger than me, right? So anyway, I'm trying to read this speech. I'm way off topic. So so anyway. So what I just want to leave you with, I know we're behind, but I just want to leave you with, just a couple things and for you to think about, going forward and how your life goes. One, please continue to support the military, the services that you're doing with this American Legion and being part of something that's really, really great. And just, keep on going on that journey and seeing where it takes you. And, like I said, I know Colonel Stuber, he's at Tech, unfortunately has to break me once in a while, and sometimes it's not real comfortable. probably attest to that. But again, thank you for all you're doing. Continue to support the military and doing those great projects that you're doing for, I mean, just think of where those people would be at without the support of the American Legion, right? They wouldn't be able to go back, right? And they wouldn't be able to do a few things. So again, thank you for everything you do. Thank you for the service, the selfless service. Whether you serve, or your spouse serves, or you're just, you're associated with something bigger than you. And the Legion, American Legion, is bigger than all of us, right? So continue to do that, and thank you for having me here tonight. Appreciate it.
General Baker, thank you for being here. Thank you for those great remarks, and most importantly, thank you for your service. What you're doing is making a difference, and we just want to thank you from the bottom of our heart for taking the time to be here with us this evening, so thank you very much. It takes a lot to give of yourself and do that in a selfless manner. It takes a lot to be able to think about others more than you think about yourself. And if you can think about something that's bigger than yourself, all the small little problems in life really don't seem to matter all that much. And the military does a fantastic job of taking people from very diverse backgrounds, from diverse parts of the country, bringing them together and turning them into the most lethal fighting force the world has ever seen. That's the United States military that we should all be very proud of. This time I'd like to call up Colonel Mark Mallon. Colonel Mallon is the, well, go ahead, clap for your son. You should. Colonel Mallon planned this entire evening. That's why you're clapping. He's the chair of this year's Military Ball Committee, and he's got some comments he'd like to make and also lead us in a toast.
So we had some great comments by General Baker. And he's a fantastic officer in the military. And we have some military officers here, obviously. We have a lot of retired, as you watch when they play the songs. So what we do here was encapsulated entirely by the commander, John Scudder, when he explained those two situations for individuals. That's why we are here, and your support tonight goes toward that. We get people that wander in the building and say, I don't know where to go next, and I don't know what to do now, as veterans. And we can help get them to where they need to be, whether that's driving them over to the Hines Hospital, which we have the commander of Hines here tonight, Colonel Steve Braverman, fantastic individual. Oh, there he is. Oh, he moved around the room. He's stealth. So we have the commander here, but that's what we do. We're here 100% to support veterans, whether it's, I don't know where to go next, I don't know what to do next, I don't know how to go forward, I can't afford what they're showing me. That's what we're here for. And that's what we do. And we're a place for them to come to feel safe and get the answers and the help they need. So it's a great thing what we do. This was a fun night, and I absolutely thank General Baker for being here tonight and supporting us in our event. We really appreciate the support. Inside your program in red, on I think the third or fourth page, actually when you open it, it's on the right, it's on your right side. In red, at the bottom of the page, is all the people that were on our planning committee that helped for tonight, and they were fantastic. And two of those people, Charity Algram and Amy Engstrom, they gave some fantastic ideas. And I can say no, and I can say no about 3 or 4 times, but I stopped saying no after about 3 or 4 times. I know I'm going to lose. But all the people that were on that planning committee did an amazing job to put this together tonight and make this room look the way it did, make the dinner the way it was. But as General Baker said, his organization does the Thanksgiving, and we do the Thanksgiving as well. So we get a room full of really young, really wide-eyed, bright, young kids from Great Lakes that are going through basic training. That this is their one time off during basic training, that they get to stop and breathe. And we set up computers for them, and we set up phones so they can call home, and we just let them relax and we feed them. And they don't have to do anything, they don't have to jump, they don't have to go through anything, they can just relax. So we bring them in, and we bring them in on Thanksgiving, and we let them have a good time. But General Baker was absolutely correct about the next generation. I was so fortunate about 4 months ago to go see my nephew graduate from Marine basic training out in San Diego. And it was a lot of fun because I told him if he graduated, I'd put my military uniform on. And it was a lot of fun to wander around the military, Marine basic training facility in a U.S. Army colonel's uniform. It was a lot of fun. But to watch these young kids that were just so motivated to do what they did. And the greatest thing about every single one of those kids was they walked into a Marine recruiting facility and said, I'll do this. I'll volunteer for this. I am here as a volunteer. So what we have as an organization, as General Baker said, I think I'm 100% in agreement of federal service, but the fact of the matter is, every single individual that's in the military today, including those individuals that have come back in much worse shape than they went out in, did it as a volunteer. And we are here as an organization to support every single one of those individuals. Doesn't matter what war it was, it doesn't matter how old they are, we're here to support them. So what you've done tonight, we thank you so much for what you've done in support of our organization. Now, I don't have my glass with me right now. If someone could run my glass up. Thea? Yes, with the wine. The one with the wine. Pour some wine in that, Thea. That's what I brought my 13-year-old daughter here tonight. But
Your 13-year-old bring you booze.
yes, I let my 13-year-old bring me booze. No, there we go. No, my 13-year-old brought me booze. That's what I brought her here for, 980. But real briefly, what we say in the military, on the radio, the commander is always 6. So when you're on the radio, when you hear 6, whatever it may be, Rakkasan 6 or Screaming Eagle 6 for the 101st, that's the commander. So in the military, Household 6 is always the biggest commander. And that's the wife. So Household 6 runs everything. We have a sign in our house that says, don't confuse your rank with my authority. And that's true. That's 100% true. Amen. So the last thing I'm doing tonight is proposing a toast to the ladies. So thank you all, and continue with what you're doing. And next thing I'm going to bring up now, I'm very fortunate to have here tonight an individual who I have been friends with since 8th grade. Freshman year high school I've been friends with. So if anybody wants to catch me later on, I got stories. I got pages of stories. But he's absolutely one of the greatest individuals I know, because everything he does is not for himself. Like what we do as an organization, he does is not for himself. So I'm going to bring up for a couple of short comments the mayor of Elmhurst, Mayor Steve Morley.
You want some wine?
Well, certainly I'm honored and humbled to be here tonight. There's not a lot of things I regret in my life, but if someone had to ask me if I had to pick one thing I regret, is that I haven't served my country. So I really don't belong up here with all this august company. We do what we can in Elmhurst to support our military. Commander Scudder and Bill Shanklin, good God, the man jumped out of planes. Someone's going to do a wonderful job of keeping the Legion front and center in front of us at City Hall. And they keep us up to speed on what they're doing, what's going on here. They're always so warm, so welcoming. And when we have the opportunity to support them, we do everything we can. This town wouldn't exist without you. This country wouldn't exist without you. I do truly have undying gratitude, as we all do, all of us here who haven't served, but that's why we're here supporting you. So thank you again for coming. Thank you for supporting this wonderful organization.
Since the 1830s, Elmhurst has grown from a quiet farming community at the edge of Chicago into a vibrant suburban city that stands on its own. Much has changed since those early days. For more than 60 years, the Elmhurst History Museum has proudly shared the stories that make up Elmhurst's rich and unique history. Today, the Elmhurst History Museum's mission is to engage people with history through our exhibits, collections, and educational programs. The museum presents a wide variety of exhibits annually, including original exhibits planned by our staff, as well as national traveling exhibits from other institutions on a full range of history-related topics. The museum's award-winning exhibit on Elmhurst history in the second floor gallery is an innovative and fascinating look at the story of Elmhurst. Beyond exhibits, our programs and special events actively connect people with history through interesting lectures and tours, fun family activities, exhibit sneak previews, and large-scale special events like the annual Museum Day celebration. Our school programs provide hands-on interactive ways to learn about history. Children love to take part in the immersive experience at our Churchville one-room schoolhouse, led by a school marm from the early 1900s, as well as participate in old-fashioned games and I Spy activities during field trips to the museum. There's always something new to see and do at the Elmhurst History Museum, so be sure to stop by soon at 120 East Park Avenue in downtown Elmhurst. The museum is located in the landmark Gloss Mansion, just across from the Elmhurst Metro Station. The Elmhurst History Museum is open Sunday and Tuesday through Friday from 1 to 5 p.m. and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Admission is free. For more information, please visit our website at elmhursthistory.org.